So, let's start. Let me get this right. Okay, cool. So, today we're going to talk about functions. And what are functions? How do functions work in Python? And why do we use functions to begin with? This is actually... There we go. Cool. So, let's jump right in, shall we? So, today I'm going to be using learnpython.org. For those of you who want to follow along, learnpython.org, E in functions, and let's go ahead and learn functions really quickly. And I'm done. Okay, cool. So, now that I know functions, let's jump right into it, shall we? So what is a function? A function is a really nice way of compartmentalizing program statements so that you can use them over and over and over again. Now, there are certain statements in Python that we like to use, such as print. And we can write print over and over again if we want to print certain things. For instance, if I wanted to print hello, I could. If I wanted to then print world, I could use the same function to do that. Now, this function exists within the library of Python. It's a function that's already created. So me calling it just means that I'm using a function that's already been written. Now, obviously, I can't see the written word of the function. I can't see when, print and then the function written behind it. But in this case, I know I can call it. And in order to call a function, you need to call the name of the function with parentheses and then whatever the parameter on the inside is, and we'll get a little bit into that. But if we run this, I should get something that tells me to save this. Let's save it here. I'll call it Diablo. One of my favorite games. And there you go, Hello World. So this is an example of how you can call a function. But that's really not what we want to do here. We actually want to find out how functions are called, how we can write our own functions. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to define a function, okay? I want to define a function called greeting. And in the greeting function, what I want to do is I want to print something. So in this case, I'll say print hello, my name is Francis. Let's print that. Wait, what happened? It didn't print anything. The reason why I didn't print anything is because I didn't call the function. I just merely created it. So in this case, think of a function like a blueprint to a house. Now, if you've ever been to a place where they're building a lot of homes, you'll see that there's a lot of homes that look the same. They have the same blueprints. But the blueprints themselves are not the house. The blueprints just tell you how to build the house. In this case, our function is like a blueprint. It is not the house itself. You can't walk into a blueprint and cook food or raise your family or live there. But the blueprint tells the builder how to build the house. And in this case, we want the function to tell the program how to build the function. So if I wanted to call this function, what I need to do is I need to actually call it. Now, this seems a little redundant, doesn't it? But it's not. What I'm essentially doing is I'm taking the blueprint and I'm building it. So now I should get, hello, my name is Francis. This is called an abstraction. Or I'm sorry, this is called an implementation. And this is called an abstraction. What does that mean? An implementation is a fancy way of saying a blueprint. That's really all it means. An abstraction is when you call the implemented blueprint, or you tell the program, build this thing. Now, this seems a little mundane, right? So let's take it a step further. Let's not do a greeting. Let's do addition. Okay. And I want to add two numbers together. We'll say keep the same concept. So var, or actually, that's not how I instantiate variables, Francis. So x equals 1, y equals 2, print x plus y. And then I want to call or build this function. I get 3. It worked the specification. Now, what did I do here? I took the number 1 and I took the number 2, and then I printed those two numbers in the print function. But wait, everything we've always put in the print function have always been strings. What in the heck are these? This X and this Y. They are the variables that I want to do a operation on. Moreover, if I wanted to print X, the string X and the string Y, I would need to put quotations around them to make them a string. But in this case, I'm not doing that because I want to call the variable X and the variable Y. Well, this is nice, but it's not very modular. If I ever wanted to calculate 2 more numbers, I need to come in here and change these numbers myself. But we don't normally make programs for ourselves. Developers are really unselfish like that. We normally make programs for other people because, well, we're feeling, kind of good about that, and we want to do nice things for other people. So in this case, what I actually want to do is I want to create what are called parameters. Now, what are parameters? Parameters are variables, placeholders, if you will, that we put in our blueprint or in our function. So X, Y. Now, X is a variable in this context, and Y is a variable in this context, but they're also parameters. Now, why is that important? Well, now I don't have to tell it what I want it to be. Now I can say, well, when you call, what this is essentially saying here is, when you call addition, the function addition, I want you to also get X and Y. So let's try to run this and see what happens. I got an error. I'm sure you were expecting that. And the reason why is because the function is asking when it's called for 2 parameters. I didn't give it any parameters or arguments in this case. When they are here in the blueprint or the function, they're parameters. When they're here when I call it, so let's go ahead and write that down, shall we? This is the, we'll call this the function. And I'll just put blueprint here so you can have an idea of what I'm talking about. And I'll call this the abstraction. And this is the actual home. Okay. Okay. So if I want addition to work correctly when I call it, what I actually need to do is I need to pass it what it wants. In this case, it wants values for the variable X, the parameter X, I should say, and it wants values for the parameter Y. When I pass parameters or pass values to a function, when I call it in this case, that's called passing arguments. So the first argument that I would pass, and let me see if this actually does what I think it's going to do. So I'll rewrite this. I want to see. It didn't. Okay, fine. And you can see down here it's saying missing 2 required positional arguments, X and Y. So let's go ahead and fill that. So what do I want for Y or X? That's the first parameter. I will pass it an argument of the number 5. Then let's say I want to add 5 plus 5. I'll pass Y5 as well. What's going to happen? I get the number 10. Why? Because when I called the function addition, I'm passing the number 5 to the variable X, and then I'm passing the number 5 again to the variable Y. Then what I said was, I want you to take those 2 parameters, X and Y, whatever I assign the number, whatever number I assign to it, whatever integer I assign to it, and I want you to print the sum of both of them. But see, there's still more that's missing though. What if I don't want to do this at all? You see, this function says addition. This function doesn't say print. So why is this function printing anything? Moreover, what I should actually do is just make this a function that does addition. So what do I need to do? I can do the following. I can say I want the function addition to return the sum of the parameters X and Y. Now, what does return mean? Return means that the function is giving a value back, or the blueprint is giving a value back when the function is executed. How does that work? Well, in this case, what I can do is I can say I want to print addition 5, 5. What's going to happen in this text, in this context? Well, when I run this, what's going to happen is the blueprint addition is going to fire in the print parameter. When the addition is finished running, it's going to return the value that is passed to it by these two numbers or by this function. You can imagine that this function name, addition 55, is going to be replaced with whatever the sum of these two values are. So if I change this and I said I want it to be 101, what should I get? 101. Why'd that happen that way? Well, I told this I want you to purely do addition. And when you're finished, I want you to pass the value between x and y to wherever you were called. I want you to replace your call with whatever is being returned. Now, in the last case, we didn't return anything. And in that case, we call that function void. I won't go too deep into what void actually means because it's very simple yet complicated. And in Python, it's not important because it's a scripting language. All you need to know about void is that void means that your function doesn't return a value. And that's it. Now, we talked about how to return a function or how to call the function. We talked about what happens on the inside of a function. We talked about returning values from a function. In the end, in Python for that matter, this is really it. So let's go even a step further. Let's make an actual function, okay, that does some stuff. So we'll call this equation. And instead of returning x and y, let's return z. Z equals x and y. Z equals z times z. Let's run this and see what happens. Addition is not defined. That's because I didn't change this call to equation. So let's change it. I've goofed. Stop, please. And there you go. 1,000 or 10,201. Now, I'm not going to verify if that's correct, but if you do 101 times 101, I guarantee you that's probably the answer. And that's it for functions, really. There's not much else you need to know. Now, one thing that's really nice is I wrote this function by itself. But well, let's say if you wanted to write more than one function. Def name. And let's say I want this to say S S okay. So I made another function called name, and I'm passing name, first name, and last name. Now I have a print function that has a string in it. Now the S's stand for strings. So what I need to do is I need to add parameters to the print function so that I can pass those specific parameters or the S variables correctly. So I'll say last name here, which is a parameter in there, not in there, but which is a parameter in actually. Okay. Last name, first name. So in this case, what should happen is last name should print in this string and first name should print in that string. Now what I can do in this print function, instead of printing, I should say return. And I should not do this, actually. What I should do is just concatenate everything. Bear with me. There's probably a better way, but at this moment, I just want it to work. And now I can say name Let's see if this works. It might not. I think it's not going to work. Yeah, it's not. Because in this case, I'm trying to concatenate a string with a integer. Give me a second to think. I could always put it on a second line, but I don't want to do that. One sec. Nah. So I should do this. Now it should work. Hey. Try it again. Hey. Your name is Fisky Francis, and the answer is 10,201. So what did I just do there? Well, I created a second function, and then I called that function in the print method, and then I concatenated it to the equation function, and then I converted it to a string so that they can add to each other, or they can concatenate with one another. It's a little complex, but I can take it even further. I can do more than just that. I can get rid of all of this, and instead of putting it all in the print function, what I can actually do is say name, or z equals name Francis Fisky. And then I can say plus strz. Now what do you think is going to happen? The same thing. Now, the first way I did it, I showed you how to put two functions in the same call, or two functions in the same line and use them together. In this case, what I did was I created a function that I can kind of pass my name to. And then what I did was I used that function in another function to actually pass the z to the equation here and print out all the information that you see here. Now, if that doesn't make any sense and it's really complicated, just go back and rewind it and watch it again, because this is it, folks. Thank you for watching Python functions. You know, I really enjoy doing this, so if you liked this video, if it helped you very much, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. And if you want to see more of these videos, don't forget to subscribe. I'm Dr. Dev, and as I say in every video, ciao.